Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh my gosh, happy Saturday. It is Saturday. Yes, it is. Happy Saturday. So I do have some eviction news. I just want to get right to that. Share screen. I'm going to do this one.
Deputies went to serve an eviction notice.
This is a big mess for most of the day. CBS 2 Jeff Nguyen is live in Hollywood to show you how it escalated from there. Jeff.
Pat and Jeff, let's go ahead and show you the
Big
late.
mess for most of the day. CBS 2 Jeff Nguyen is live in Hollywood to show you how it escalated from there.
On 7 this morning on Cahuenga Boulevard near Oden Street when deputies went to serve an eviction notice.
This is a big mess for most of the day. CBS 2 Jeff Nguyen is live in Hollywood to show you how it escalated from there. Jeff.
Pat and Jeff, let's go ahead and show you the layout here. This SWAT situation took place at the apartment complex across the street. We're talking about the balcony right there, right behind those palm trees. Now, that faces the 101 freeway, and there were concerns that if a shootout took place, a stray bullet would end up in traffic.
And then when I left, I kind of walked out into a crime scene.
Vanessa Yule lives in the area that was roped off with police tape in Hollywood during a SWAT situation that lasted more than 6 hours.
A lot of confusion, lots of people pointing, like, go the other way, go the other way.
That was the response she got as she drove out onto Cahuenga Boulevard near Oden Street, where the 101 freeway was closed in both directions, and traffic was rerouted onto surface streets.
Something that I've never really seen before.
Julie Block and Kyle Carper were evacuated from the building where the incident was happening after sheriff's deputies told them to get out.
I definitely had a strict work schedule today, but I had to let my boss know that the unfortunate events that was happening.
It all started around 7 a.m. when LA County Sheriff's deputies served an eviction notice at this apartment complex when they heard a single gunshot. For hours, they waited to see if the male tenant would surrender. Bomb squad and SWAT members were brought in. Once deputies got into the apartment, they say the suspect was dead from a single gunshot wound. The man lived across the hall from Trevor Marsh.
I can only imagine with the way the last couple of years have been that if you don't have consistent work in Los Angeles, you're in trouble. Like most people are living paycheck to paycheck.
While traffic was impacted, Vanessa Yule wrapped up an appointment for her car, so she checked a phone app to figure out when she'd be able to get home.
And I was sitting in a Starbucks, just looking at the traffic, working on my computer.
Right now, the homicide division from the LA County Sheriff's Department is here. They are in charge of this investigation. We are told no one else was involved in this SWAT situation. Reporting live in Hollywood, Jeff Nguyen, CBS 2 News.
Thank
Pluto TV. Stream now.
Okay, so basically, the headline was barricade suspect found dead following hours-long standoff in Hollywood because of an eviction. Yeah. Yeah, I do have another eviction story that I want to share. Not right now. You don't let me read the story. Sometimes they don't let you read the story if you don't subscribe to to their paper or whatever. All right, so this is talking about eviction. The eviction spike with inflation's rising and little help left for tenants. Okay. So basically, we've been talking about this for a while. I've been talking about the inflation and rent since I want to say July. So we know, or people that have been following me know about this inflation and rent. So this is what we're going to talk about in this story. Inflation Rent hikes and dwindling federal pandemic era assistance led to a sharp rise in eviction filings in August and September. NBC News reported the problem is only expected to increase in the coming months with the moratorium lifted and just 7 billion of emergency rental assistance still available. So when they're talking about that 7 billion, I have to let you know that's across the state, across the states. So we're talking about the United States right now. We're not talking about one particular state. They're referring to the United States right now. And they've calculated that $7 billion of the emergency rental assistance money is still available. Now, I just showed you a video yesterday where there was in New York, in one of the counties in New York, there was $16 million that had not been spent in rental assistance money still sitting there. Although in that county, evictions were rising. So I just want to, let you know that. From here on out, it will be very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be a very, very difficult time. Tim Thomas, research director at the Urban Displacement Project at the University of California, Berkeley, told. So this story just came out an hour ago, but this is the second time we've read a story that has Tim Thomas from the University of California, Berkeley, in a story. Evictions, which have remained low in the past 2 years due to a moratorium and the availability of nearly 50 billion in federal rental assistance, were above their historical averages in about half of 1,050 counties tracked by Legal Service Corp. So Legal Service Corp, they started tracking evictions. Anyone from Apartment Housing Rentals Foundation that had or has been following me know that I have been following Eviction Lab. But other organizations are now starting to track these evictions, and that's awesome. About 8 million people said they were at least 1 month behind on their rent, and another 3 million people said it was at least somewhat likely that they would be evicted in the upcoming months, according to this census survey. So I don't know. It's almost like this information is being, regurgitated, for lack of a better word, because we've been hearing about this. We know that the U.S. Census Bureau said that 3.8 million people will more likely be evicted within the next 2 months, but that was in September. So in September, the U.S. Census Bureau put that story out there: 3.8 million people evicted in 2 months. We're going through these evictions right now. So this is November. So mind you, I told you this story just came out a couple hours ago. Nearly 4.5 million survey respondents also said that their monthly rents had increased between $250 to $500 in the past year. And 2.5 million said their rent had increased more than $500. This is what's happening. As soon as the landlords get their property back, or as soon as that lease period is over, they raise the rent. Because they can't raise the rent until the lease is over. So if it's a year lease, they can raise the rent when the year lease is over. But this is a trend. As soon as they get their property back, they're raising the rent. We'll talk about that. Cities such as Phoenix and Oklahoma City have been particularly hard hit, with rents jumping at least 24% over the past year. Evictions have followed suit. For example, in Oklahoma County, which includes Oklahoma City, evictions have increased 40% over pre-pandemic levels. 40%. So when they say pre-pandemic levels, they're really talking about what was going on before the pandemic. Now, I already told you guys, eviction was a problem before the pandemic. The pandemic has, as they say, in Oklahoma City or Oklahoma County, has made these evictions increase over 40% pre-pandemic levels. Okay. With inflation and massive increases in rental prices that we've seen over the last few years, it's much worse for low-income renters than it was before the pandemic, when we were already in an affordable housing crisis. Daniel Grubbs Donovan, a researcher at the Eviction Lab at Princeton University. Okay, so you guys probably heard his name as well a lot. So here's the deal, you guys. Yeah, the market rent had already outpriced minimum wage workers. That's why the Apartment Housing Renters Foundation Second Chance Rental Program was so popular, because we would find pockets of affordable housing all across the United States, right? Now, the inflation on these rental prices has made it even harder for, minimum wage workers to pay for living, to pay for housing. Okay. The Biden administration had responded by urging states and municipalities to use remaining American Rescue Plan Act funds to help the struggling renters out. Now, in the beginning, you guys listen to the numbers. They said it was $7 billion left. $7 billion left. Just remember that number. The jump in rent coincides with overall pessimism concerning the economy, with the majority of the Americans saying the country was headed for a recession in the next year. Rent increase had appeared to slow down. However, some areas of the country reporting slight decreases. So a couple months ago, when I was doing these prayers, and I was having people come on and pray with me. One of the pastors that prayed with me said that she saw a story where they were saying the rental increases were going down. But guess what? Yeah. Rent increases had appeared to, in addition, inflation appears to have tempered, with the Department of Labor reporting earlier this week that the consumer price index was up 7.7% from the prior year, the lowest increase in February. Well, first of all, who's going to work and who's going to buy anything? I mean, if nobody's working, then the buying power is out of there. And so if everybody's homeless, nobody's going to work. I'm just letting you know now. It's going to be very, very, very hard to get the economy back going if nobody's working. That is what it is. And so if everybody is homeless, who's going to work homeless? You guys, are you guys serious? So now I'm not even talking to the renters. Talk to the lawmakers. Come on, you guys. Come on. You know that the rental industry brought in some trillions of dollars in 1 year. And there was only $4 billion put into that rental assistance. Okay, I get it. Nobody knew what to do with this pandemic. No, I mean, it caught the entire world, not just the United States. It caught the entire world by surprise. It just so happened that the way they dealt with the pandemic, it made problems that we had in our country, in the United States, rise to the surface. Since I had been dealing with housing, obviously I'm tracking the housing, and here it is. The housing issues, the lack of affordable housing issues has risen to the surface. So now you think about the housing burst in 2008. This is bursting. Are you kidding me? It has already burst, but it's like a faucet. It's so big that the soup is still seeping out. Come on, we have to. On my podcast, it's Time for Affordable Housing. We've been doing special episodes every day, because these prayers, they go on my podcast. It's Time for Affordable Housing. But then we still do that Friday 1 o'clock story. And that story talked about the solutions. And so I focused that story on the solutions. You could find It's Time for Affordable Housing on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Spotify, Anchor. You can find it. It's literally the name of the podcast is It's Time for Affordable Housing. I talked about the solutions, and some of the solutions that I talked about is you're gonna have to seal those COVID-19 evictions. You're gonna have to make it fair ground for people to find another place to stay. You got to seal the COVID-19 evictions because the landlords are not going to be biased towards when they see a COVID-19 eviction. When I say COVID-19 eviction, I'm talking about 2020, 2021, and 2022. You're going to have to seal those evictions. Landlords cannot, they're not going to be biased. We're living in a different world right now. They're not going to be biased when they see those evictions. And so it's going to be hard for a person to get another place to stay. The other thing, you got to find a way to pay these landlords. You got to find a way to pay these landlords. But then when you pay them, you know, you're going to have to put some stipulations on those payments. And those stipulations are going to have to include the renters being able to have that year, get a year lease and get back on their feet. The renters, you have to go and get a job. If you're still in that unit, then you need to literally, it's time for you to start working, get 2 jobs, because we're going to have to work your way up out of this situation. America, United States, we can't let everybody be evicted, because guess what? Unless you just want the economy to slow down, unless you just want, our future, which are the children, to not have shelter and not be able to go to school and so forth and not eat or whatever, because that's what's going to happen. If all of those people, if all of those families are evicted, what do you want it to do? I mean, I just don't see. I'm just one person, and you have all those experts like myself, at this table, which you should have been inviting me to. You should be inviting me to that. See the same things I see. We can't do it, and there is a way to get up out of it. Come, contact me. I'm telling you, there's a way to get out of it. God gave me the plan. Let's do this. And we need to do this and make some changes before the end of the year, because families are being evicted every weekday. I think they do weekend evictions. People are being evicted, and that's our future. Our future is being evicted. It's been made homeless. Where are those children going to go to school from? Now, I had another story where the landlords were fighting back from, these eviction protections. Landlords, let me tell y'all something. You're angry at the wrong person. You should not be angry at the tenants. You should be angry at the government who told the tenants not to pay rent. You're angry at you got misplaced anger. Your anger is in the wrong place. I've been doing landlord-tenant mediation for 8 years. 8 years. I prevent evictions. Some of my members, in order for me to put them in a second chance rental program, I have them go back and pay the previous landlord. I was even doing that during the pandemic, as I was placing people in second chance rentals during the pandemic, having them go back and pay off, a previous eviction. There's a way. It's just that some demographics of people, you got to know how to talk to them. You got to know how to deal with them. A lot of people throw their hands up. Do you know how many times I did over the last 8 years? I threw my hands up several times, because I'm like, wow, I can't get them to listen. I can't get them to go along, even if it's just to save their own lives. But there is a language. It's almost like speaking in tongues. You just got to talk their language. And God has given me the ability to talk their language. And I have been very, very successful at getting working class renters on their feet and learning how to be a renter and learning how to save and knowing what's the most important. Uh, the most important thing is the quality of life that you're living. If you're working and paying taxes, your quality of life is the most important thing. And so if your skill set is at minimum wage, that doesn't mean that shouldn't be afforded housing. That just means, there should be afforded housing, by the way, that don't take up 70% of your income, and that you need to learn how to budget and so that you can save up for the future and things like that. And so this is what we teach in the Apartment Housing Renters Foundation. We've been very, very successful so far. So with that being said, I want to just can't say I want to just get right into prayer, right? Because that was long. But I am going to share my screen and I'm going to offer the prayer that's on my screen is what I'm going to offer up. And I'll allow people to read that prayer with me. And that will be the prayer for today. So this is, come on, what is this? Get out of here. Ugh. You guys see my screen, like, come on, are you kidding me? I'm not interested now. Get out of here. All right. So this is Psalm 27. And this is the prayer we're going to read. We're going to read this prayer together. I made sure the screen was big enough for you to see it. And this will be the prayer that we offer up for today. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pasture. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restored my soul. He leadeth me in the path of the righteous for his name's sake. Yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. So enjoy your Saturday. Thank you guys for giving me some of your Saturday. Have a good day on purpose. The devil is like a roaring lion, ready to pounce on you and everyone. I think that's the scripture that I put up for my description. Have a good day on purpose, you guys. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, is as a roaring lion walking about, seeking whom he may devour. The key word is like. That means he's not one. Okay, so have a good day on purpose. Thank you. I'll be back tomorrow.